not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net, and today there was a pretty cool news report from Star Wars Newsnet, and it's on Darth Vader's role in the upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series. So that gets me pretty excited. I've wanted to hear this report for a long time. It's nice to know that we have some confirmation about what these big questions have been that we've been asking, to have the answers to them. And let me throw it up here. Blech, throw up. Okay. Here we go. So exclusive images and details on Hayden Christensen's return as Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi by the Hui. All right, let me get down to the spoiler part. Before we go into details, be considerate. So don't throw the images around, is what they're asking, which is a good policy, you know. That's why in my featured image I just use the Rogue One tank, but you know, what else are you gonna put? So wait, let's not jump all the way down yet. But they say in Rogue One we see, you know, Vader in the tank. We have exclusive photos from the set of Obi-Wan Kenobi and had artist renderings created so we can share them with you. We also have never before seen concept art of Darth Vader made for this series. The connective theme between all of this is understanding why Christensen is back as Darth Vader specifically. And then they show this picture, which is, you know, the kind of stuff that we've seen throughout the years, you know, in different ways. So in a lot of ways, like, that's to be expected that he would, you know, this design and this look after Rogue One, but also pretty rad that they're doing it, and good work on Star Wars Newsnet for being able to confirm that, because, you know, I never thought they were going to put Darth Vader in, or Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen as the actor, in the suit, and he's just walking around being the guy in the suit. You don't need him for that. You know, they didn't use him for Rogue One, and they didn't even put him in the tank in Rogue One, because why fly the guy out to England to put on a scuba diving suit and, you know, hang out in a tank all day for a shot, you know? Uh-oh. Oh, StreamYard, you are the best. StreamYard just does what it wants. Can you guys hear me okay? Can chat confirm that you guys could hear me right now? These live videos, man, you never know what's going to happen. Yeah, not having a super good time with this StreamYard, to be honest. So I'm not going to put it back up on screen at the moment. But they basically have concept art of the tank that we see pretty much behind us. I mean, it's like, it doesn't have those little teeth, you know. Wait, can you see those little teeth right there? It doesn't have those. I mean, that's pretty much the only difference. And they say the image above which is of the tank, is an artist's rendering of a huge Bacta tank that was on the Obi-Wan Kenobi set. We have seen the actual photos of the tank and had the rendering made based on it. So basically, so they basically have photos of that from set. They had somebody draw it. So you kind of get the vibe. And then they have the gas mask, if you want to call it that. His "I want a party, my Burning Man" mask, you know, and who he confirms that was on the set. So that's, I think, pretty much like the gist of it. But we're totally going to see Anakin in the tank suffering. You know, I mean, there's a lot of ways that they can take this, because you're going to see why, you don't really need to see this, but you're going to know why Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader hates Obi-Wan Kenobi, and why that continues to be a source of little Sith battery in his heart that keeps him going and being a jerk and killing people. And with that in mind, like, as we see him, I guess, get up and climb out of his tank and eat his Wheaties and put on his robot legs and all that stuff, it's probably pretty grueling. And that's probably got to weigh on Obi-Wan to some degree too. I mean, does Obi-Wan regret not killing him, like actually killing him? Because it's the old trope, or some things are worse than death. And it's a good thing he didn't, obviously, because he throws Palpatine down the Death Star shaft later on. But with that in mind, you kind of end up in a place where you cut off your best friend's arms and legs, or your student arms and legs. And Geek Furious says this is the only reason you bring Christensen back, to show how tortured he is by the suit. Yeah, I think so too. And I also think it would be pretty rad if they do more with it. Like, we've seen certain elements that, like, Darth Vader needs the mask to breathe, right? But they've used the idea that he could take it off and he could chill without the mask for a little bit. It's labored breathing. But, or, the mask breaks in Star Wars Rebels, I believe, when he's fighting Ahsoka, and you could, like, kind of that visual where he's looking at her and they make that connection. Oh, it is you. So that could kind of see that happening again too. And Kennedy did pump this up as the rematch of the century or whatever. So I feel like, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I get the vibe that this is the not retconning of episode 3, but a retelling of it in the sense of it's what we thought episode 3 was going to be. If you remember back before Revenge of the Sith, we thought the prequel trilogy was going to be Anakin marries Padme and they have kids, and then he falls to the dark side. She goes into hiding, and then the Jedi have to hide from him because he's so powerful, and then he's hunting them down. That was the gist of what we thought and assumed or knew was going to happen in this story. And that's kind of what this is, except for Padme's dead. But she had a broken heart, you guys. You have to understand that. They could have put her in the tank, kept that heart alive, but they didn't have that on Polis Massa. She's dead. So, yeah. James asks, do we know how many episodes yet? 6? Yeah. It's the whole time. It's like, so back when it was a film, it was, a movie, right? Well, when they turned it into a series, they basically took all 3 acts and turned all 3 acts into 2 episodes. And then it went through a bunch of rewrites after that. I heard that original movie script was the best script they ever wrote for a Star Wars film. At least Disney. I'm not saying in general, but maybe in general. But for Disney, like, people were very, very enthusiastic about it. People at Disney loved it. And when they turned it into the series, I have no idea if that integrity or whatever, remained intact. But I'm going to assume that it did, and that most of the changes were in the adaptation process. So it's probably like there's probably going to be a ton of gold in this series. Like, it seems like it's the slam dunk. It's the easy one. Oh, it has Obi-Wan. You want to see him. It has Darth Vader. You love him. That kind of stuff. But it sounds like the film had a lot of, like, actual care and development. And it wasn't like development hell where they just couldn't get their shit together, over and over again. It wasn't like that. I think there's such a difference between development and actual, like, doing it right in development hell. The internet oftentimes overlooks those things, I think. So, so Thrawn talks all Obi-Wan is his roadrunner. And then Nolan says Kenobi needs to come out on a Friday. This is an event. Yeah, it sounds like they're going to be doing these. I think we're going to be able to start watching these on Tuesday night. I just saw on Star Wars Meg, or I've seen it before, but Star Wars Meg reminded me today that the release schedule is on a Wednesday now. So that tells me you'll be staying up late Tuesday night until midnight, and then you'll be watching your Star Wars Kenobi and ruining your whole entire life as you don't have enough sleep. You're going to lose your job. Your wife will leave you. Your kids won't respect you anymore. And you'll be running a Star Wars YouTube show. No, anyways, hey, Star Wars. Wait, hey, chat, come back up. Star Wars Santa, how's it going? Yesterday, you went too early. I missed your show yesterday. I was like, what's going on? But check out Star Wars Santa's YouTube show, by the way, guys. It's a good time. It's very wholesome when Meg doesn't turn it into a not wholesome show, and which I like it when she does that. But it's super wholesome, positive Star Wars show. Very chill, nice community. You know, it's a good place to hang out. It's the place I can wake up, get my coffee, after the kids are settled. I take the kids to school, do that, and it's not like a bunch of just negativity crashing into my face. Geek Fury says easy fix to Revenge of the Sith is a line like, she didn't die of a broken heart, I felt it to the Force, Palpatine killed her. Yeah, they wanted to do that they wanted to have Anakin choke her. I'm sure you remember this, dude. Like that was the thing, as Anakin choked her and she died. Then on the reshoots, they were like, oh man, we can't have Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, murdering his wife. That doesn't work with our brand. Dell says, I really need a new computer. I had to start the stream in a new tab. Chrome gets loaded up with too much crap. I don't shut it down once in a while, laugh out loud. Yeah, dude, I don't get it. Like on this, basically on StreamYard, it only works on Chrome if you want all of the features to run. And I have nothing. I took all of my extensions. It's bare bones Chrome just for this. And if a site has too much stuff going on, too many ads that come up and stuff, it just says no. Or if I put like a 300-page PDF, it doesn't like that either. But Nolan says, I can't handle waking up at 3 a.m. on the East Coast to watch Kenobi and heading to work after. Yeah, we were talking about that the other day. It's like, used to be able to like go to like cons and stuff and sit on concrete for 2 days to like see Bob and Joe walk out, something stupid like that. And the last couple of times I did like D23, I was just like, I can't handle this anymore. This is just too much. I am getting too sore from this stuff. Let me see if there's anything I missed while I was gone. Yeah, I'll spill. Geek Furious earlier said Vader will barbecue dead Padawans just to further slam home how awesome his redemption is by doing one. Yeah, right. That's the fairy tale logic. I think it's like when you want to hold fake characters accountable for fake atrocities and overlook the underlying like message. I'm not accusing you of doing it. I'm saying like it's like and I know you're doing it for a comedic effect, but you do see like I call it like the Kevin Smith effect. Like when Clerks came out, you had a lot of like Gen Xers and people a little older than I am making jokes like about pop culture and stuff. And then eventually you saw that those kind of jokes become like very serious. Like they weren't joking anymore. It was okay to be Randall from Clerks, who is a joke of a human. It's funny. It's hilarious. I love the character. But yeah, it became very real after that. I felt like, at least that was my experience. And it's like, the point is, it's like the Green Knight, which is a movie I love. I can't push that movie enough. I love that movie, but the end of it, well, I don't want to spoil the end of it, but the end of it and the end of Return of the Jedi share the same exact message. And the message and at the end of Return of the Jedi is it's never too late to start doing the right thing, or to stop being an asshole, or to stop whatever you're doing that's wrong. And that is the societal message that Star Wars passes on that is important. Because if you end up in a society or a galaxy or a stories or whatever of people who can't be redeemed, then there's never any way for anybody to be good once they have been bad. So I think that's one of the Judeo-Christian messages that is really passed on through the Star Wars saga. And I think that one, though, is definitely a good one. So yeah. Yep, I did lose that microphone. What's up, Dez? How's it going, man? Yeah. But yeah, essentially though, having Darth Vader come back on screen. Wait, Justin, I think I missed the beginning. Did you mention source Star Wars Newsnet? Yes. I had Star Wars Newsnet up at the start, and the whole show crashed. So it is what it is. But yeah, they had a good report. I think that's maybe my favorite report from them since back when they had that Luke Skywalker pick right before Force Awakens. And you could tell after that they on this stuff they're like, oh, we better draw that. We don't want Lucasfilm yelling at us too much. Many horrible things first start as a joke. That's true. It's like, I'm only joking if you think it's a joke, right? Yeah, that kind of stuff. Dale Erdman, I was going to do this yesterday. Santa's 1 month anniversary. Nice. Yeah. So are you guys super jazzed about this, or was this your assumption from the start? Or do you have comfort knowing that are you happy? Are you comfortable now that you're at least getting this? Because I am. I knew it would always go to this place at least. And when Kathleen Kennedy promises this like rematch of the century kind of thing, whatever the quote was, it's going to go beyond this. But wouldn't it suck? Wouldn't it just be terrible if they had Hayden put on the Darth Vader suit from Revenge of the Sith and walk around like a chicken for a second? And that's what all that was about. And that's why they were happy. It's unlikely that would ever happen. But we do live in a stupid world where sometimes stupid things happen. So, just that little bit of baby Star Wars anxiety that you have, that something won't go down, So James is very happy about this news. But you know what James is not happy about? The new loot llama system. And at first in Fortnite, I thought that loot llama system was kind of fun. But after getting a bunch of loot llamas in this season, I agree with you. Those loot llamas suck. So Star Wars Santa says, not like super excited from this, but it's cool to get a bit of detail. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It is good to get something, you know what I mean? Anything going that, and Star Wars Newsnet isn't going to go and like make up something. You know what I mean? They're not going to like throw it out. They could always have an incorrect interpretation of something, like anybody can. That's not, but that's like what you worry about from them. You don't worry about it being like, oh, they're making a Finn show. They're not going to do that. So this report you can take seriously. That is, and so you can have comfort in that. Nolan says, I can't wait to see Obi-Wan whoop Vader and the Inquisitors. I'm hoping Kenobi gets a good shot in, cracks Vader's helmet off to reveal Anakin. That's my hope too. My hope is that we go exactly something like that. I mean, and there's scenes you could write that could just be really powerful. I mean, he could literally take his mask off, look at Kenobi, and like do that, that I hate you moment, like, look at me. You know what I mean? It's completely in the realm of their relationship. And I think Darth Vader has the one up in that if he was to do that, Obi-Wan's not going to cheap shot him. And he knows that. So, I'll be honest. One time I was about to get into a fight and the dude went to take his shirt off. And I was just like, oh, this guy's bigger than me. Once I saw the shirt come up midway, attack. Obi-Wan's not me. He's not going to do that. Bestman says, "What's up, Jason? Hey, what's up, dude? We got to have you in this show here, like right here, right here in one of these bubble things that we can do with the space age technology. One of these days, whenever you're ready, open invite. Love to have you on. Love to hear your chocolate voice in person. Love Bestman Bulletin's podcast. He and his buds, they have the same philosophy that I had on my show, and that I think I have on this show, is just be authentic, don't go in, hey everybody, how we going? We're MakingStarWars.net here, and we're here to report the Star Wars news of the day, or whatever that, that thing. They don't do that. They're a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about Star Wars, making jokes, what they like, what they don't. And you're like, okay, like this works. I much prefer that perspective, So check out Bob, James Orchard Labs, and he says Bestman Bulletin is in the chat. Best behavior, guys. Yeah, Bestman Bulletin. He's like, if you guys say anything wrong, he will get really angry and he'll just leave. He'll just take off. He'll go make a podcast about you. No, he wouldn't do that. Yeah, so I don't know. Other just like kind of like a little side thing here. Did I take a screenshot of it to remind myself? I did not expect to be covering this at this time because we were going to be doing something else. So yeah, I do have it. Okay, so like, wait, no, that isn't it. I saw it on Meg's Star Wars show. So check out her show. There is this report. I don't know where it came from. I need to look it up. But it was basically saying that in Andor, we're going to see Coruscant. And it sounded like there was going to be some Order 66 content, and that there was going to be, clone troopers and some new kinds of clone troopers that we haven't seen. Star Wars Meg is there. Thank you, Star Wars Meg. One Take News, because yeah, I hate to not cite somebody who has a report. And when we do the show later on this afternoon, we're going to go over all that stuff again there too. But yeah, One Take News. Yeah, and that sounds cool. It makes me think that it's connected to the Jimmy Smith stuff. What happens during Order 66 on the other side of things. But hard to say. I'm excited for it though. And I like that we are at a point right now where the prequels are, or the world of the prequels, so to speak, is being acknowledged. Because it was a huge bummer when you had all of the tacit prequel bashing that went on, around the Force Awakens era, trying to just be like, hey guys, this isn't George Lucas, don't worry, we're not messing it up, kind of stuff. And in that process, they had to overlook and not acknowledge a lot of the good stuff that George Lucas brought. And I love it all, for the record. I love the prequels, but I also can see how they had to convince a media that in a lot of ways they had burned a lot of times and made discontent with, and then nobody liked them anymore, essentially. And so they had to kind of reconfigure all of that jazz. And but like last night, Eric Denton was in the chat when we were doing our final read of the Duel of the Fates stuff. And I read the second draft. Look at the second draft. A lot of the prequel stuff was removed. And by the second draft of that, and I was kind of like, was that still going on then? Were we still there? But one of my favorite moments is in Rogue One when we see Coruscant in the background. That flashback with Galen Erso and Krennic and little tiny kid Jin, and they're just at the height of the Imperial Order on Coruscant, and you're like, okay, there it is. So, but that's all we've got. There hasn't really been that much other than Mustafar, and it wasn't very overt, was it? The Mustafar stuff. Well, at least not 9. I don't even know why that's Mustafar. Like, so out there. It was like he almost like they didn't want to do it really. But yeah, super excited that we're going to be seeing Order 66 stuff, that we're going to see Vader, that we're going to see Anakin's body, so to speak, his burned up pizza face. And real Ben Maynard says, I love this news. This is great. Finally embracing the prequel era. Love seeing the photos. Yeah, I'm with you there, dude. And Best Ben says, closer than ever to Kenobi and Andor. Now they're officially done. Very excited. Yeah, this next like the end of 2021, once we hit like Book of Boba, it's just going to be such a better like climate for content. There's going to be just so many shows like stagnated but lined up with breaks in between, but enough to carry us. I mean, like right now, we just pretty much have, we've had Mandalorian and Bad Batch when you really get down to it, and love those shows. Don't get me wrong, but the Kenobi thing's going to throw a whole nother round of stuff on the table. It's going to open up more shows, because that's kind of the idea from what I gather, is that like all of these shows are going to be the catalyst for more things. We're going to see characters in the Kenobi show who are going to potentially have their own show, and we're going to be talking about that stuff. And Thrawn says with the Flying City. So Star Wars Make says we should go back to Utapau, Naboo, etc. Yeah, I would love to go back to Naboo and see that place, what happens to it, how does it change during imperialism? Because like one of the design concepts of the ideas in the design was that we lived in the prequel era was an artisan era. We had like Art Deco everywhere, and then when we moved towards imperialism, where the production's being seized and stuff like that, everything is just super clunky at that point. And love that. So would love to see what they can do with Naboo and that. Now we do see Naboo in Return of the Jedi at the end, and they clearly just kind of like use their resources to make the shot that they had, so they didn't really redesign it and change it that much. But you could have the capital city of Theed kind of untouched, and you could really do some interesting stuff outside of that city, I think. So Jay says 7 through 9 was garbage. Sorry that it didn't work for you, dude. But maybe one day you'll rewatch and just see them for the value that they have. Sometimes that happens. Nolan says, you guys think we'll get more Vader's Castle in Kenobi or Andor? I'm a sucker for an evil villain lair. Yeah, I was thinking about that for a brief second when we saw the tank on the Star Wars Newsnet report. That tank is different, not by much. I mean, no one would even know it was different when you really get down to it based off of those little tiny details. So the one that we see in Rogue One is in the castle. This one could be, the one on his Super Star Destroyer. Who knows, right? But I mean, it could go that way. I do think that concept of Vader's castle is really fun and really cool. That's one of the cool things about that VR game is, you actually get to like deal with that with Mustafar and what happens there and his quest for immortality with Padme. Love the game. Kind of was like, I hope this doesn't step on the toes of future development though. Excuse me. Ben asked, do we have an ETA at all on Kenobi specifically? I don't think so. I don't think we really have very much concrete stuff in terms of like a schedule. I think the only thing that we know is that it sounds like it's 6 episodes. It's kind of where it starts and stops as far as knowing that kind of stuff. And it's really strange in a way that like Andor and Kenobi are pretty much finishing productions at the same time. And I don't think that was always the plan. I think that's just how the world made it this year, or how everything washed out. So I don't know if they prioritize one with visual effects and the other one just sits there being edited with unfinished effects for a lot longer, or if they just finish them both and let one sit. I have no idea how that's going to work, because that's kind of weird when you think about the fact that they have content that can be dropped but won't be. But it makes me hope that we get Andor and Kenobi closer together, than being super far apart. James says, every Star Wars show, movie, I'm always hoping for Cloud City. Yeah. Yeah, Cloud City is like, it's kind of weird. Like, I want to see all of the places I love revisited, because you're like, I love that place, I want to see more of it. At the same time, like, then you go to the other perspective of, no, let's just do new stuff. But when you look at these like TV shows, like what do you call it, like a Mandalorian, when we got to like that one tree world, not the like Ewok village looking place where Mando meets the lady with the kids and all that, with the ATST, that episode, pretty cool, like, idea, I guess you could say, but at the same time, wasn't like the best planet ever. If I never saw it again, I probably wouldn't care. And that's what makes me go like, yeah, let's see some stuff from Cloud City and that kind of stuff. But that Lando series that's coming, that could be our in for Cloud City, because if you're going to tell what appears to be an anthology show, or like a life and times of Lando Calrissian, if it does have Donald Glover and Billy D. Williams playing Lando, and we do see, different aspects of his life in it, Cloud City is gonna show up. I mean, when you look at what we got from Lando in Solo: A Star Wars Story, he's set up with the Millennium Falcon, and he's living the smuggler life. He's achieved Han Solo status, right? When you get down to it, even though Solo hasn't yet. Then he loses the ship. So, what other kind of like must tell stories are there left that from the original lore? And like, one of the big questions is people aren't asking how to get the Lady Luck. I need that. Can we please get that? Like, not saying that won't happen, but nobody's asking for that. Nobody's like, I need that. But the idea of like, how does he get Cloud City? How does this guy who in Solo: A Star Wars Story is losing the Falcon to Han Solo, how does he end up as the administrator of Cloud City? And that's a story. It's a rags to riches story, really, in a way. I mean, it's not unlike, Ghostbusters, an American startup. Bespin says to Ben, I think Kenobi comes first, probably Q2 3. Yeah, I kind of think that would be the smartest thing to do, because it's more of the surefire slam dunk, so to speak. You don't want because like Mandalorian is a hit. It connected. It resonated. And if the show after doesn't, then the discourse becomes, can Star Wars do it again? I don't know. And then that sits in until they beat it twice. Once they beat the discourse one time, then they have and something's good, they have to do it again. So Cassian's supposed to be the best of them. That's what I've generally heard. But Cassian is the harder sell compared to Obi-Wan Kenobi, who has 40 years of story behind him and a whole Star Wars Skywalker saga behind him as well. And you have Cassian, who has Rogue One, and good character. And I think it's going to be a great show. But that's the harder one to sell, the harder one to make people accept. And doing Kenobi first just makes it where everyone's like, Star Wars brand is great, everything's cool, everything's perfect with this. Oh, Cassian's going to be great because Mando and Kenobi were great. And then, we go from there. At least that's what I think. Feel free to disagree with me in the chat. I'll read it. It'll hurt me inside, but it's okay. So, Nike Hike. Geek Free says, The Acolyte is the show I'm most excited about. Yeah, that's the one that sounds like it's going to be the most interesting to watch. I'm very mixed on the High Republic content so far. There hasn't been something that really has connected with me that makes me just love it, where I'm just like, yes, like this, do not ever erase this. And So I kind of feel like I kind of worried that I'm not worried about the show being bad. I think the show's going to be good. I'm worried that the books, the High Republic content we're getting is kind of like, before The Force Awakens. Remember The Force Awakens, all those books that came out? There's just a bunch of like stuff that happened. It seemed like it could be important, but it really wasn't, you know? I'm afraid that it's like going to be like that compared to the show. But also, I could also see it being like I love the series, and then it makes me have a whole new appreciation for the High Republic, and it makes those books come to life. Sometimes that happens too. I really don't think I would like Star Wars books without the films. The films do something for me that make the books work. And I'm a reader. I read a lot of things that aren't Star Wars usually, and but the Star Wars books I think work for me because of the films, if that makes sense. Mike Papas, I was wondering about you. Leroy Jenkins. Yeah, I was like, where is that guy? I'm gonna have to send that guy a text and be like, get your ass in the chat, Mr. Papas. And yeah, Star Wars Meg says Sorgan. I don't know. Chris Penix. I wanted to see a live action Black Spire Outpost. Yeah. Yeah, me too. That I mean, it would be cool to see a series. See, here's the whole thing. It would be rad to see a series that takes Galaxy's Edge, takes Black Spire Outpost, and does all of the happenings and goings on like Deadwood. Like if that was the Deadwood in Space series, uh, essentially, that would be great. But I also fear that if they were to do it, it would have the theme parks in mind. Number one, it would turn into what the He-Man cartoon was to the toys. You know what I mean? It would become a commercial for it. They would start compromising stories because it doesn't fit with the cast member vibe of Disneyland, that kind of stuff. If they did that, if it was to go that way, just don't do it. But if they said, you know what, we're going to let Lucasfilm do what they want to do, and then we're going to let the theme park deal with it and make it work for the theme park, then that would be cool. But I am a bit suspicious about that when I thought about it. Daniel says unrealized solo sequels could have shown how Lando acquires Bespin. Yeah, for sure. I mean, had they continued making films and it just went that way, that would have probably have been a very likely projection of that story, I think. And that's why I think it's likely to be in this, you know. I mean, I think it was Star Wars Xana who suggested like it might be like Young Indy, excuse me, where at the original versions of Young Indy when they aired on ABC had I think his name was George Hall, and he played an old Indiana Jones with the hat and an eye patch. Who, by the way, Harrison Ford is as old as that guy now. Harrison Ford is a good-looking man because the projection for what old Indiana Jones was going to look like, not so flattering to Harrison Ford anyway now. But anyways, yeah, it would start off with like Harrison Ford and he's like Forrest Gump. It's like on a bus bench, some like 90s looking kid. It looks like he just stepped off of like, the Cosby Show or A Different World, would be like, "Hey old man, why are you doing this right here at the bus stop? Why don't you move over?" And then he'd be like, "Let me tell you something about being a good person." And then he would tell the story of the Indiana Jones adventure he had. Then at the end, the character would go, "I don't know, this old geezer sounds crazy," and leave, or be like, "Wow, you're amazing. I love American history or world history." And so, yeah, could we have that with Lando? Lando on Bespin, and somebody asked him, how did you get all this? And then he's like, "Let me tell you the story, because I'm old Lando and I got nowhere to go, nowhere to be. All my friends are dead." And then he tells him, starts off at age 10 as opposed to how he got it. Could be something like that. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind if that kind of sort of cheesy but fun, whimsical storytelling was done with a certain, a certain angle. It could be cool. But let me see what else we got. When do you think we'll get some Kenobi stills or teaser? What's that? There's that Disney event that's coming up. I think it's in November. I think that's our best chance. But I also think that's going to be focused on Boba Fett, the book of Boba Fett, and not so much on Kenobi. I think that they'll start using the forward momentum of Boba to get Kenobi going. But that's just a guess. They could be completely rad. I mean, they're doing other things at that event than Star Wars, but if they do have 15 minutes, for instance, to fill up, that is actually a lot of time to not give us anything new, to not talk about things. And even if they showed 5 minutes of Boba Fett, which would be awesome, it's still 10 minutes of other stuff to talk about. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it. Geek Furious says the Lando show is the show I'm second most excited because I miss Kira. Yeah, do you think that they're gonna put Kira back in the show, or back in a show when we have her in the comic book? Like, a part of me feels like her showing up in a comic book means that it ain't happening. That, I mean, it's like you start writing yourself into corners on things. They can't kill her. She has to live. There's, ooh, didn't mean to get into this now either, but there was an article today with Sandy Newton talking about how when she signed on to solo a Star Wars story, she didn't die. And then she was killed. And everybody felt the same way she did. She was pissed about it. She was like, I'm the first black woman in Star Wars, and they have killed me, essentially. You don't do that. And, she wanted to come back. And everybody who saw that film felt that way too. Makes me think that change must have happened when the directors exited and Ron Howard came aboard. It must have been during those revisions when they changed Dryden Voss from being a dog man, played by the dude from The Wire, to Vision from WandaVision. So Bestman says, not fully confident that the Lando series will be Donald Glover. Glover has to film season 4 of Atlanta soon, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith series is next year, plus has a deal with Amazon. Yeah, that dude has like a lot going on. Depending though on how many episodes it is and how it goes, like what if there's only one story of that age, of that Lando at that age? That would mean it could be possible. I'm just hopeful. I'm just hoping for the best. I'm hoping it goes that way. But the fact that they didn't sell that also tells me maybe not. Because while Solo, a Star Wars story, didn't connect in a big pop culture way on its release, Donald Glover is a very well-known person with a big pop star at the recently as well. And if you were going to drop something to Disney investors, that would be something to note, I think. Nolan says Kenobi May the 4th release. That's my guess. Oh man, Nolan, I hope you end up being right. I really hope you end up being right. But classically, looking back, they haven't given us shit on May 4th. Ever. Not even a film that would release, nothing. No series, nothing. Nothing of just, hey, here's some deals. You can go to Think Geek and buy lightsaber chopsticks, 25% off, folks. That's kind of what it's amounted to. A bunch of garbage. But that would be rad, though. I'm hoping, not to be too pessimistic, but that is the history of this, I think. Unless I'm forgetting something super rad. I don't think I am, though. Geek Furious, Kenobi comes out May 25th, 2022, which is a Wednesday. It's at least on the day, right? It's at least on a Wednesday. And they don't seem to be too, they don't really seem to be care too much about dates, about the symbolic significance to us, because they know that we care. It's symbolic to us, but we are already in the fold. So they don't. So that's why I think it never works out for us on that front. Nike Hike says, we need some boba leaks, laugh out loud, right? I know, man. Like the boba stuff really, I was in a place mentally where I was just like, I don't want to even look at Star Wars stuff right now. And there was also the pandemic, so when I did want to, can't really do much about it. Couldn't really, you know what I mean? There wasn't like a lot, and they made that one in such a vacuum, and because of the pandemic, it made everything else smaller and tighter as well. And so, yeah, very difficult on for leaks on that one, but hopefully something happens. You never know. Darth Del Rio says it seems Lucasfilm is getting over their fear of prequel era content. Yeah, I think so too. I think that they're starting to be like, okay, we could pepper this stuff in, and nobody's gonna start having knee jerk reactions to the past. I mean, I think that the prequel discourse has changed dramatically over since the sequel trilogy. It became like, oh, I hate the prequels. Oh, as long as it's not the prequels. And then now it's like it's cool to not like the sequels, but to uh, appeal to the past. So the prequels, at least the prequels had blah 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 that I like. Real Ben says, I'll pass on High Republic personally. I'll still watch any show or movie though. Yeah. Star Talk says, after that C3PO scene, we need a Criminal Minds type show where they look for killer droids. He's talking about in the Duel of the Fates script when 3PO has to kill another droid, and he's like, please go quietly. Very dark. Hawk says, have you ever heard anything about them, including Lord Momin, in any upcoming content? I have to be honest with you. I have no idea who Lord Momin is. Right now, I'm not making a connection with that one, which also answers your question. James Washington, I still can't believe Mandalorian is ending at season 3. Huge shame. I see. Like, let's I love Matt at 3 Buck Theater, right? 3 Buck Theater ran it, and he's like, Mandalorian canceled, and it's like playing the YouTube game. That's why I'm horrible at this, because I can't do it. But it's not. It's not like that. It's not over. Star Wars, that universe is alive. The era is very alive in the future of Star Wars shows. So it's just that that arc is ending, and that's it. Star Wars, like, I think these shows need to be looked at like arcs, and there's going to be Rangers of the New Republic, and that stuff is gonna show up there. Those characters from that show are there. When you get down to it, what it's doing is it's making it where the title of the show is the focus topic. So at one point, they could have had Star Wars and Mandalorian start to show how all of these disparate heroes become sheriffs and start policing the galaxy for the greater good of their communities and their planets or whatever. Well, is that in the focus of the Mandalorian? It's not. And that's one of the things that started to happen with Star Wars The Clone Wars. I was having dinner with one of the voice actors one time, and they were like, we started making stuff that we were like, what is this? Because this is no longer the Clone Wars. And I think it must have been Bad Batch content. Maybe it was like when they were starting the first Bad Batch content. And like Bad Batch is a continuation. Bad Batch is the Clone Wars. I know they introduced new characters, so we have like a different thing to it, a different vibe and stuff to an extent. But Bad Batch is what the Clone Wars became once the focus or the like statement, the thesis statement of the show was completed. And so don't be bummed because it ain't over. You're gonna see. I think you'll still see Din Djarin and other things. If they do need him in something, it's like not like they can't put somebody in the suit and imitate the voice if they couldn't get Pascal back, but they probably will be able to, and he'll probably just do the voice if he couldn't do it. But yeah, I in no way feel like it's the end if that's correct. Sogan is the planet you spoke about in Mando. Oh, okay. Yeah, Sorgan. Got it. Yeah, I'm like the for whatever reason, the worlds of of Mandalorian do not stick in my brain. Like I usually I used to have this encyclopedic knowledge for Star Wars content until I started reporting on stuff and having stuff all the time. Then that stuff just never stuck because like we called it, we called it the grass set, whatever. It's stupid on my part for sure, but Sorgan got it. Now I won't forget. Bespin says, "Get on Fortnite with me sometime, dude. Got a dash." Yeah, dude, for sure. I am down. I am pathetically trying to get the golden Rick from Rick and Morty for no reason at all, but it requires me to play a lot. I'll do it. Geek says, "We didn't see Val actually die, so that's how I look at it." Yeah, that like I hoped there was going to be something like at the end. Trash trucks outside. Sorry, I hope you guys probably hear that. Nothing I can do about it. Taking out the garbage. Took out the papers in the trash. Yakety sacks. Anyways, yeah, I hope that I was hoping she was going to come back and be the enemy of Han Solo, and that there would be like a story there, where they become friends or whatever, because she knows that that Woody Harrelson's character is kind of a, the Valacord dude. She knows what he is. She has his number. But Geek Furious, May the 4th, 2022 is a Wednesday. All right. So where did I go? Whoa, I just lost everything. Here it goes. Here we go. All right. Star Wars Mink says, "No, Donald. No need to fret. Billy D could be the lead and have a show where he talks about his life." Exactly. All his adventures in the galaxy, etc. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe they'll do some of that weird de-aging stuff with him. I don't think they will. But wouldn't that be weird? Nike X says, "Didn't the Bad Batch premiere on May 4th? Okay, maybe it did. Maybe so. Now I get to eat shit." If it did, it probably did actually. So maybe you're completely on. I just May 4th had such a bad taste left in my mouth after all of these years. Del Mervin says that he loves Meg's idea. Me too. Okay, Geek Furious he's getting down on one knee right now. He's like, "Guys, hear me out. If they release Kenobi on Wednesday, May the 4th, and the 45th anniversary of A New Hope drops on Wednesday, May 25th, right? What if that's the episode Kenobi and Vader fight? Mind blown. I hope I get to eat Bantha Poodoo on that one, because that would be cool. I don't. I wonder if that would get them more press, because there's nothing that somebody who is struggling to write something for an outlet loves than some bullshit fun fact that's just like, oh well, okay, now how do I could write that sentence and then 250 more words to make this count for Google. That's why I hate writing Star Wars articles. Kind of over it. Star Wars Meg says, "I remember when I borrowed Attack of the Clones from Blockbuster. The early 2000s. Those were the days." Yeah. I somewhere around here I actually have I have The Phantom Menace on VHS that came in like a big box, and it had like a film cell, but it was just a reproduction film cell, which kind of pissed me off because when I pre-ordered it from Best Buy, I thought it was going to be a real film cell, like from the movie. Like they were doing that was like a thing they did back then a lot, like in promotions for stuff. And then I have an Attack of the Clones one, and it's weird when I look at the Attack of the Clones one because DVD was like prevalent by that point, so it's like kind of weird to even see that one. Lord Momin, more like Lord Moomins. Nike Egg says, "Any more news on your report about Cobb Vanth leading the new Rangers show?" No, I don't. There's really nothing more to like say about it other than that's what my sources believe the show was going to be, and that it wasn't written yet. So is it written by now? I don't know. Is it being written at the moment? Could be, but I don't know. Like we would have to like, do remote viewing into Favreau's office. Dale says moment is the one Vader found his mask, or Palps gave it to him and possesses him. Dale says more promise of finding and bringing back Padme. Yeah, I know. It would be nice to have something from Padme and Natalie Portman in this story, even if she was playing, when I don't mean to force Gus, but if she was playing like something in a vision or whatever, that would be nice just to have that. At the same time, though, if they ever do that, I hope they do it while Natalie Portman is young enough to play Padme that we knew. Because it would be weird if like Padme shows up and she's like, I'm a ghost, but I'm also 60 years old now. That would be strange. But Natalie Portman looks the same right now. So Star Wars Meg, I want to know which planet Mando and his parents are from. Yeah, when they were it's pretty funny when they were filming that stuff. I was there on the days when they had made the set for that, and they really didn't make very much for that planet. But there was like the one wall, and it has like vines growing up, like flowers and vines like on it, and it was super confusing because it's also kind of dingy gray, and or dingy gray looking, at least in person, and it made me think it was Navarro, and I was just like, this place is weird. There's like lava and flowers. What's going on? And I was like, is this like Mustafar? Like, is it coming back to life with flowers growing on walls? What is it? I didn't really think that, but it was just like, what is going on here? And but they were just filming a little bit of stuff, not very much, and that's why. I remember a time, Meg says, I remember a time when people thought Obi-Wan was a clone and there was an Obi-2 out there. Yeah, that was back at the original, like before Super Shadow went completely like off the rails. He would take, he would report on actual Star Wars news. I think he may even have had a scoop here and there about the prequels. Maybe. I want to say it was like about like the Tunisia stuff that was being done. I think he may have, but I can't remember now. But anyways, yeah, the people would write in their like theories, and every single day it was Obi-Wan, and it drove me absolutely crazy because it's Wan, not one. It's more like a Mexican dude named Juan. Hi, I'm Juan, as opposed to hi, I'm one. And yeah, and they were like, yeah, so like he's a clone and all that stuff. And you bring up an interesting thing, or an interesting point, was that there was this huge assumption back then that the Clone Wars was about the cloning of politicians, and like Palpatine might have been a clone, and it was like, Manchurian candidate kind of stuff. That was like the big assumption. I knew that wasn't the case though, because at a SWAT meet in 1989, I want to say, I bought a collection of Star Wars magazines, and in there was the Star Wars poster books. And the Star Wars poster books actually straight up claimed that the stormtroopers were clones. And so we were able to make a really easy assumption about what that meant at the time. But for whatever reason, when I would write about that back then, nobody would listen to me. Nobody cared. Everybody had their pet theories, and they were stuck with it. James Washington says Mandalorian is now what the MCU is then, I guess, the Mandoverse. Yeah, it is sort of like, it is sort of one of those kinds of things where you have like, it's all Star Wars, but like I think that era, that's the current era with that storytelling, is going to have that interconnectivity with those characters. Because like you'll hear, and I understand it on paper, I understand it like as a concept. People don't want the galaxy to feel small. They don't want everybody to know each other. But then what do all of us do? We all go out to see the Avengers, don't we? Because in reality, we actually do want all of our favorite characters together on screen, having space adventures or whatever. And they are tasked with making those connections work, though. When Lucasfilm fails, that argument prevails. And when they do it right, nobody says, oh, the galaxy feels small now. But the good thing about these TV shows, like for instance Cobb Vanth or Cara Dune comes to mind. Probably shouldn't use that example, but Cara Dune, you have these characters who didn't exist 5 years ago, but now they can show up and they can intermingle with anybody, with any of these shows. And there's that recognize, you recognize them, you follow their story, and so you're already invested. Because I kind of think that when they start something brand new, the audience isn't invested in the character, and if that never connects, then the whole thing falls apart. But they have all of these established characters that when are put in the right ways with class, it's great. Like, I love Lando. I don't want to not see Lando in Star Wars Rebels, but that's a good example of when they did it poorly. Now Ezra just knows Lando, and it very much is didn't need to happen, and the story was inconsequential, really. I mean, like, it was Lando wanted space pigs or something. You know what I mean? It just ends. But there's ways to like do it, and I think that the powers that be, though, I've learned a lot of lessons over the years and how to do it. Because George used to have their like hands tied, like, no, you can't do it, and then okay, you could put Chewbacca in this episode of Clone Wars or whatever, that kind of stuff. But Old Thinkertube says Lando in a rocking chair by a roaring fireplace with little space kids sitting around saying, "Tell us a story, Mr. Calrissian." Yeah, I would watch that. I mean, that's the thing, is like, I'm not a big fan of how they brought Lando into the Rise of the Rise of Skywalker. Not a big fan of it. I don't think that was very well done. I think it was a bit lazy feeling, like we have no better explanation, when we know the Duel of the Fates story actually had a better one, which is strange on that part, that they didn't just go with that. But you end up with this kind of story where you're like, what happened to Lando's daughter? That's one that could be told. I don't know. Kind of lost my train of thought there, though. I'm gonna be honest with you. Geek Furious. Fun fact: Ewan McGregor's brother's call sign is the RAF is OB2. Okay, so maybe it's not a fact, but people say it's a fact, so it must be true. Okay, I'll dig it. Thrawn Talk Podcast. I'm next to a man wearing golf clubs on both hands while driving. That's called a murderer. He's killed somebody and he'll kill again. Watch out. Geek Furious says, Snope says OB2 fact is bullshit. I'm with you, Meg. Star Wars makes sense. Palpatine's backstory is hella interesting. I love the Plagueis novel. It needs to be made into a film. Sheev, a Star Wars story. Yeah, I know. I'm with you too. Like, and there's just so many like strong parts. Like, I love the even like the stuff that's furthest away from Plagueis in that novel, where you have Qui-Gon Jinn and Sifo-Dyas and Dooku, and they're having like conversations about politics, and we see these guys that have like 3 different perspectives on where the galaxy is going to go, and it's the kind of thing that old dudes would talk about, and those 3 old dudes would talk about, and then you see how each of them, though, is in a place to affect the galaxy and how they do it. And that stuff is great, and like the problem I think that we always run up against is like with like the Plagueis concept is, number one, it's a big concept, and it can be used to actually like bring out a ton of stuff. And Lucasfilm knows that, but like for instance, Loris Kasdan, I don't think he was joking when he said, when somebody at Comic-Con, I was there, they're like, hey, do you know, are you using Darth Plagueis? And he goes, what? Darth Vegas? And everybody laughed. I honestly don't think that was a joke. And somebody at Lucasfilm one time, there was a comic book that came out. I can't remember which one it was now. It might have been one of the ones that had like Jaina Solo in it. And it had a lot of connections, a lot of similarities to The Force Awakens. And it was getting reported on like, this is clues. This is all clues about what happened in episode 7. And they direct messaged me, and they're like, the powers that be who are making this new film have no idea what this is. You know what I mean? And that's pretty telling. Like they don't I don't think they want to have their hands tied, with that kind of jazz. But I am with you though. Plagueis though, I think if done right and done with it extrapolating out to what, because his whole concept kind of gives what it should have been used in the sequel trilogy. It's insane that it wasn't, but and but it leaves open the possibility for the returning of like an ancient villain of Plagueis himself. And I mean, wouldn't it be great if we had this Plagueis backstory show, and it's really good, and he's like loved, and then that's what they use to kick off the resurrection of Ben and the returning of Plagueis, and to give us 10, 11, 12, because they're going to give us 10, 11, and 12. And I hope when they do, it's full of things that we actually want to see. That's not a dig on the sequel trilogy, but I want to see that story, and I hope that's one way of doing it. It's a bit obvious, I think, so that's probably why they won't. But it would be great if somebody took that obvious but really cool thing and then weave that through it all. I would be for it, Old Thinker2 says at Toronto podcast, the guy's wearing gloves to cover up the fact that both his hands are robotic. Yeah, it gets shot and you can just like see like the stuff. So, anyways, what about Chewie's backstory? Yeah, Lucas wanted to at one point wanted to do a Chewie kind of film. He wanted to do an anthropology Star Wars film. It would have been like National Geographic, like here, Jane Goodall with Wookiees and that kind of something weird like that. Obviously it probably would have been like Star Wars biomes in a way, but wouldn't it be great if they did something like that? Like I loved biomes. I mean, it's weird, it's very incomplete, but it would be so rad to have something like that, especially in VR. Like biomes, I wish there was a biomes version of biomes in VR as well, because that would be great. There's a lot of Oculus Quest out there now. Quest 2s, they should jump on it, Chris says, I wouldn't mind seeing a season of Mando taking place after Rise of Skywalker, Rise of Skywalker, during the sequels with an older Din and older Grogu. Mandalorians fighting remnant First Order Sith Empire. Rey finds Grogu. Yeah, I mean, and that's completely possible. It is completely, I think, something that may happen, because who knows, what the future is going to be like for Star Wars in film. Who knows what the future of film is even going to look like, I was talking to a friend in the industry, and we were talking about Star Wars films, and they were like, if the theater industry keeps going where it's going, it won't be as viable for a long time to get back to releasing movies in theaters that will make the same amount of money that they used to make. So they're like, Disney Plus just might as well keep investing in itself to be to become a front runner in the whole thing, and I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. I think that makes sense. But that said, where I was going with this is, if Dave Filoni continues just to rock it as he has, he'll probably end up making films eventually. And I think they should give him one. I think he would do a good job. That said, if he stays where he's at, what does he do? He takes whatever the big tent pole of Star Wars is, and he builds around it, and he embellishes it, and usually makes it better. Clone Wars made the prequels better, Return of the Jedi is fine. I love Return of the Jedi, but he's making the post Return of the Jedi era better. And so that's what I assume he will end up doing post sequel trilogy at some point in time. At some point, he'll move there. I've heard from a I don't mean, I'm not putting words in Filoni's mouth, obviously, but I've heard a lot of times that he's not a rabid fan of the sequel trilogy. You know, it didn't go in a place for him as a fan that really worked. Now, that doesn't mean any of that Civil War bullshit you hear on YouTube is true. None of it is. If any of that was true, Dave Filoni would just get rid of him. It'd be that easy. But Filoni not liking the sequel trilogy or not loving it, if that is accurate, as I've heard from lots of credible people, it makes me kind of excited to see what he does with the era, because it means he's going to try to make the era better. He's going to try to make that work for him as a fan. And I think that that's actually ultimately going to be a positive in a big way. But so far, we have no indications that he's doing anything in that era. So hopefully something happens soon. Old ThinkerTube says, if they filmed Chewbacca's backstory, would they just shift the dialogue to vaguely accented English like they did with Hunt for Red October? Like, oh, hello, comrade. I am Chewbacca. Yeah, right. That would be so weird. Yeah, that the problem like with Chewbacca is that he doesn't talk. So that would be hard. That would be strange. But you know, the whole like, I've found it weird when they allowed Chewbacca's family to become canon, because it's like, you know, you do have a story where like the Wookiees are separated, the Wookiees culture and world is sort of destroyed, and they're sort of like the Mandalorians scattered all around after the Clone Wars. um Makes sense, but it also like makes Chewbacca like the biggest deadbeat dad in the world. So what? Little is his kid? What's his kid? Wait, it's Itchy's the grandfather, Lumpy's the kid, and Maul is the wife, right? Yeah, Mala, and Mala's like Malamute, which is the probably inspiration for Indy and Chewbacca, Indy's name in Chewbacca. So what? Lumpy couldn't? They'll let Luke become a gunner on the Millennium Falcon, but Lumpy has to stay. What's going on there, Chewbacca? Did Lumpy get another life debt? Did he just go give somebody life debt? Like, hey, my dad does it, I'll do it too. It plays weird, doesn't it? I mean, Chewbacca, I guess, goes home after Return of the Jedi, though. It's like kind of the idea. Chewie, National Geographic violence. Yeah, they're just overdoing that, pulling arms out of the sockets where they just pull people's arms off. Just pretty much the finishing moves, like a fatality in in Mortal Kombat. Thrawn Talk says that Old Thinkertube, we both just pulled into the Costco parking lot. You have to fight him, dude. You have to fight him. You have to Boba Fett him. You have to reveal. You have to prove that his hand is flesh. Nike says, do you think we'll see any Mando characters in Book of Boba? Yeah, I do. And there's been a lot of rumors that like Grief Karga, is Timothy Oliphant in it? I can't remember now, but yeah. And for the record, like I think that Cobb Vanth, Timothy Oliphant's character is so good, and I was so happy after I ran or I talked about it somewhere about how, you know, how good that episode was. I was contacted by a source who's like, yeah, that guy's a focus. They love that guy. And you know, he was from the HBO series Deadwood, and Deadwood is what actually started the Star Wars on TV exploration. Was George Lucas loved Deadwood, and that doesn't really matter because, you know, like Mike Zero has this report that I love. I've fallen back in love with Mike Zero, to be honest with you, because it's so ridiculous. But it's all George Lucas's new plans for the Star Wars saga or whatever, and it's so funny. It's like George Lucas could not be more out of the loop and in touch with the stuff. So Nolan, gotta get gang, been a blast. All right, dude. See you later, man. Thanks for stopping in. Always good to hang out with you. Geek Fury says, I think Filoni will continue making stuff in the Skywalker Saga era. Anything before it and after it will be handled by others. Yeah, it's possible. It's completely possible. I mean, like, you know, I you know, it's like how many I wonder how old Filoni is now, but he's probably like in his 40s. So, we could have another 20 years of Filoni before he retires if he doesn't get tired of Star Wars. But at some point, making it anyway, wouldn't be a slide on it. But I mean, the guy's been making it for a long time. Old Thinker 2 says at the Untitled podcast, don't let him get behind you. Luke Jones says that Thandie Newton news was pretty disappointing. Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's just a reminder of the original disappointment. It was disappointing in the movie when it happened. It was like, wow, this is a character that Thandie Newton is a rad actor who does cable shows. Like, what are you thinking? Like, she would have been a great spinoff for a Disney Plus series. And if they want to do it now, it could work. I would like to see it. They still did it, but the fact that she dies in the way that she dies, where she dies, not as cool. It feels like it mutes the potential of the character a lot. Old ThinkerTube says Tim Oliphant is a way better Cobb Vanth than he was in Agent 47. Oliphant is my favorite Lord of the Rings Oliphant. Yeah, the Oliphantum Menace, as I call him. Man, am I getting a sore throat or what? So Steve Bragg asks, you saying nobody should ever die? No, not saying that. Obviously, people should die, but you don't kill characters with potential until you realized it. And when she signed on for the character didn't die, so they originally didn't feel that was needed. And there was a rumor, and I don't know if it's how accurate it is or to what extent it's accurate, but that the original version of Solo was going to be closer to a Star Wars version of a blaxploitation film, and this went around, and not credible people, and not from people that didn't tell me very accurate things that panned out many times. And so I have no idea, like to what extent that was true, but that sounds fascinating. It sounds like it was a little bit more maybe of like a Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez take on what that might have looked like in the 90s. Not where it's like poorly made, but where it plays on a lot of the aspects and tropes of it. Obviously sidestepping the overtly racist aspects of it too, but a very 70s movie, and it's not what we got, obviously. So yeah, I've always wanted an answer to that. How accurate is that, or was it just in some design, to what extent? So, but yeah, anyways, I think people should die, of course. I also think that this is melodrama, and death doesn't necessarily have to mean death. And I feel like there's a lot of characters who do die in that film. I mean, most of the characters die in that film that aren't, I mean, Han, Chewbacca, and Lando make it out, and Kira makes it out, and then Rio would love to have seen Rio live, but Rio needed to die. Understand it. But I don't feel like the death of Thandie Newton's character in that moment was very strong either. It wasn't powerful. It was just, okay, oh, so that's why they can't, that's why this heist isn't working out. So yeah, but that's just my opinion, man. If you disagree, it's cool. Geek Free says no one should ever die because no one's ever really gone. Sorry, I can't help myself. Nutcake says that guy's our focus. So in other words, we will see Cobb again. Yeah, with what I have heard, he is the heart of the ensemble. That's what I heard. So basically, like, would there have been a Cara Dune episode with Bo-Katan? Yeah, but it would have probably have gone through the Cobb Vanth character. And I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means Cobb Vanth calls them up and says, "There's a shipment of spice coming in. Go arrest them." I don't know. But what was the example I heard from Rogue Squadron? Or yeah, it's like Rogue Squadron is the fighter pilot movie, and this is Chips, something like that. The old motorcycle cops show. So side note, I killed everyone at the end of my novel. Spoiler. So you are a hypocrite, and you have been exposed. If you like YouTube keywords, exposed, like Philip DeFranco every time. What does the killing of Fanny Newton's character expose about Star Wars? That's how you title a video if you want hits on the YouTube. Old ThinkerTube says, some movie deaths feel like trying to be trendy, although I can't think of an example. Sometime 10-ish years ago, it was super in vogue to make good guy loses subplots. Yeah. I mean, there is like kind of like this idea, that like it's ballsy to like kill your characters. Like, yeah, like I'll do it, man. I'll do whatever it takes. And but the reality of it is, I think it's the opposite. It's when it's embarrassing when the writers don't kill the character who they should kill because they love the character too much, when they don't make the brave choice at the moment. The other way, it just feels like, as a writer, they're being an edgelord. The Solo movie, when they kill her, didn't feel like that. It just felt like they were sweeping her aside because they were like, well, this is the most efficient way to make this story now. I think it's unfortunate. And yeah. I am a hypocrite exposed to Cara Dune, says Geek Furious, who goes on to say, I have one rule in my writing. If you kill the main characters, it's better mean something, or it's just trying to shock people. Yeah, it's like it has to be earned, it can't just be like, well, don't know what to do. You're dead. Oh my God, you didn't see it coming. That never works. Or if it does work, it doesn't last. It doesn't have like a very lasting kind of vibe to it. But I'm going to take a break and take care of some lunch business I have to do. I will be back on at 1 p.m. for the regular show. Still going to do the regular show because why not, right? And so I'll see you guys at 1 p.m. If you guys have had enough of me, I don't blame you. But I'll see you guys at 1. And make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel and all that kind of jazz. And I'll see you guys in a few.
Not about spaceships.